Kevin Nelson here with the head coach of the Linfield Wildcats, Joseph Smith. Congratulations on an incredible season. Ended in the national semifinal again, where you were a season ago with a loss to St. Thomas, but we're going to review the season in its entirety, and let's start with those two pre-conference games hosted here at the Cat Dome, a couple of wins against the SCIAC Conference in Chapman and Redlands, and your reaction to those, because such big victories for the Cats in a couple of games that everybody said, hey, those could be some close ones there in McMinnville.
Well, thank you. It really was a great season. Seems like a long time ago, looking back to the September games against the SCIAC. And, I think traditionally, or maybe year in, year out, Chapman and Redlands and Cal Lutheran have been the power teams down there. Obviously, Laverne had a great season. So the SCIAC was very balanced, great parity in the league this year. And so we didn't know what to expect with Chapman and Redlands. We felt like they'd be very solid teams. They had been the top two teams, so we wanted to play them. And looking back, it probably was not the greatest matchup, in terms of just speed and the speed of the game. But two teams that were well coached, and so when we could put the amount of points on the board that we did against them and hold them to modest gains on offense, it makes for a good day. So I thought that was a great start to our season and certainly gave us some confidence going into conference play.
Your team's so confident all year long, but through conference play, just dominating efforts. Through the first 6 games, your team only gave up 48 points. How do you keep your team motivated week in and week out to put out an effort that, in following the team, you never can tell that they're letting their foot off the gas, and I don't think they ever do.
I hope that's the case. That's certainly the goal for us, is to be a very even keel, consistent team, one that isn't playing to the level of our opponent, but hopefully is playing to our own level, being very self-referent in our approach. And for the most part we are, but that being said, this was the most dominating regular season I've experienced, I guess I've felt. And I think we were 53 points a game in the regular season and giving up under 7 for the whole regular season. So you just don't see that very often. And I felt like this year was a little bit unique in the fact that our team played its best against the better teams, and we did actually struggle a little bit against some of the weaker teams in the league, and that's unusual. Normally we've been a little bit more consistent, I should say, or up to our level against the weaker teams, but for whatever reason we did not play very well against some lousy teams. So that's a little bit of a concern, but I guess I'd rather have us rise to the occasion against maybe our tougher competitors, which we did, and some of our best games were just dominating wins over, I felt, some pretty strong teams. So, I thought our team had a great competitive edge and really rose to the occasion at times when they needed to.
Your team had more than 10 conference selections as first team, second team athletes, and you won Coach of the Year again for the 7th consecutive season. The team wins the conference a perfect 7-0. And you go into the postseason and play a team from your conference in Whitworth. The rest of the conference, where are they at in comparison to not only the Wildcats, but to the Pirates, a team that you have a lot of respect for, and you've said that?
I do. I think Whitworth's, they hired a good coach when they went out and got Coach Sandberg, and they have a lot of resources. I mean, it's a school that has a niche, and they value football, and they're putting a lot of resources into it, and you're seeing them develop a very worthy program and a very a good one. I think our conference is good. I think our conference would, our second and third place teams would win a lot of conferences around the country, but there is a giant gap between a lot of pretenders and the actual real contenders. It's a huge gap. That top 7-8 teams in the country are on a whole different level than maybe that next 20 teams, and so I think that's kind of what you saw play out. I think right now we're a team that can stand with pretty much anybody in the country, and that's been our goal, and that's certainly kind of played out. But I thought Whitworth was very well coached and had a lot of athleticism and a very difficult scheme to defend, and played very solid defense.
So you defeat Whitworth in the first round. Cortland State comes over from New York, and you beat them 38-22. But you lose your starting quarterback, junior Sam Riddle, to injury, and an injury that kind of everyone had question marks. The media always asking, is Sam going to go? But Tom Connect blew up onto the scene in an amazing game. They're calling it the comeback at the Cat Dome. Tom Connect leads the Wildcats 38-35 in a win where your team was down in the first 7 minutes by 21 points. Talk about that game and just how the emotions of the roller coaster effect it had on your team and what the discussion was at halftime even.
Well, the Cortland State game was really a game that really had me nervous. We watched them on film, and those guys from New York were tough. They were really physical, by far the most physical team we had played up to that point. They were strong, physical, ornery, and they had a chip on their shoulders, and I think they'd played a lot of competitive games. So I was very proud of how we worked our way through that. Losing Sam Riddle he's a second-team All-American. You lose a guy like that, that's a death blow for most teams. I mean, for most teams, that's a season. You lose your guy that you've built your team around in some ways. From an offensive standpoint, you're going to struggle mightily. So for Tom to come in and do what he did is really a neat story, and I think very noteworthy in terms of him being able to step in and perform under pressure, and to not get as many plays in the regular season and have to do that for your first real starts and critical downs in the playoffs. That's quite impressive, and some hats off to him. I'm so proud of him. I think that's a great story. And as far as Mary Hardin-Baylor goes, even more so. I mean, I could not have seen a game start worse for us, except for the following week it did as well. But you saw it play out with Seattle. Just watching them the other day, it can happen when everything goes against you. You get a couple short possessions on offense and great field position, and they score, and suddenly you find yourself in a big hole. It's hard to get out of that. At halftime, there was no panic. It was literally, we're going to get back into this thing. We already were by halftime, quite frankly, so we survived that big hole there and kind of worked our way back into it. And I felt like our team believed and knew that, we just keep doing what we do, and it's anyone's game down the stretch. And certainly that belief played out for us, and guys finished really strongly.
You guys will see Mary Hardin-Baylor in week 2. It'll be their first game of the year coming up next season in 2016. They're on the road at Mary Hardin-Baylor. Should be a great game there. The next week you travel to St. Thomas, go to Minnesota, where the weather wasn't as bad as it was when Seattle was there a few weeks later, so we lucked out with the weather. But a team that came out and it looked like from the get-go just had so much momentum coming into the game and so much size that Linfield did in the secondary, making tackles there, but not at the line of scrimmage. That's really where they won the battle.
They did. Just a disastrous start for us. I just felt like had we matched one of those scores in that first, 3 possessions of the game, it's really a different game in terms of just keeping it close and giving our defense a chance to get on the board and figure some things out and get some more guys to the point of attack, because we were losing up front. I mean, we know that. Everybody knows that. So they did a good job of pounding on us, getting into some power sets that we really hadn't seen all year. And they were really built for, and we were not built for. Now, had we stopped them on first down and gotten into some second and long, third and long, then suddenly the tables were turned, and you kind of saw that. They were not a team that was good behind the chains. But we just could not really get them into those downs enough on defense. And offensively, we didn't pass pro. We didn't protect our quarterbacks well enough, like I think we're capable of. And I think once we did, we were able to get some things going and certainly move the ball at times quite well. But you can't have 5 turnovers. The turnovers and the big hole early got us out of the running game and really made it a very difficult scenario for us to come back. All that being said, I was very proud of our guys to get to the point where at least we had some hope in terms of an onside kick and making it a game at the end. But if we could hit the restart button, I feel real confident of our chances to make that a very competitive game, but you don't get that chance.
So many All-Americans on this team and an offense that ranks in the top 5 in nearly every category in program history. The defense as well. Talk about how that offense was just clicking all season long.
I felt like it clicked well most all season, but we did have some lulls, and by lulls, if we're not hitting in the 50-60, that's a lull. So, it was very explosive, and I think the ability to run and pass made it so difficult to defend. And you're right, I'm very, very proud of some of the second all-time marks that they've hit, and that's hard to do with the history here, but very explosive team. I just think it was very balanced. We didn't have superstar one or two receivers that we were really going to. So it was really a system approach. And I thought Sam and Tom, when he got his number, did a great job of finding the open guys and letting the system work and taking what the defense gave us. And certainly Spencer and Tavon had a great year running the football, and our offensive line was dominant at times. And put that all together, it's a good system.
Mm-hmm. Before we talk about next season, let's talk about Alex Hoff and what impact he has on this football team. He got his sack at St. Thomas to put him as the all-time leader in program history in sacks. So congratulations to Alex. They're an All-American and NFL draft prospect. What's next for Alex? Do you know?
Well, Alex certainly has to be the most dominant football player I've seen play at Linfield, and we've had some amazing players. I look back to Ryan Carlson's year at defensive end. He was so dominant for us, and obviously Eric Hadeen and what he did. He just take over a football game. Highland at times when he was healthy, but Hoff, he did everything. He short snapped. He was so dominant in our short yardage sets as a blocker, and I think he could have been a all-everything tight end if he just would have played that all the time. But there seemed to be not anything he couldn't do, and really when St. Thomas's whole game plan was to run away from Alex. Wherever Alex was, they ran the other way, and if they just would have ran at him and not done that, we would have been a lot better. But he was so dominant, so proud of what he did. He just took over games, and I haven't really seen someone do that with as much regularity as he did. As far as his future goes, he's a tweener in terms of an outside backer or a defensive end, and he's got to kind of decide which avenue he wants to pursue and train that way and see if he can't make an NFL camp or two or CFL or something. So he's going to go for it. He's going to get an agent and see what he can do.
That'll be fun to watch for sure, and good luck to Alex. Your team has so much chemistry on both sides of the ball. What type of player are you looking for? Because it seems like each player that comes in fits a certain mold that you're looking for as far as character and what their abilities are on the football field. So what are you looking for in the recruiting process?
I think you hit the nail on the head, so to speak, and it is character, and it's about fitting into the program. We have a really neat thing going. There's there's a lot of people that are trying to emulate what we're doing and copy, I guess, and why wouldn't they, But there's kind of only one Linfield, and there's a way that we do things and go about things that I think attracts a certain kid, and as long as we're getting the right young men that want to put the team first and try to be the best they can be, then I think it works, and that's what's happening. Is we've got a culture of excellence. We're attracting a high-level character kid that is a good student and also has talent. And if you put all those things together, then you have a tremendous team, and that's the recipe. That's what we're trying to do, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Next year you'll have back Sam Riddle, Spencer Payne, Johnny Carroll, the notables on offense. On defense, Skylar Ogarico, Kennedy Johnson, your entire linebacking core, etc. Really, what are your team needs looking to next year?
I think recruiting standpoint, I'm very nervous because of the senior-laden group next year. Our entire receiving core, quarterback, Spencer, most of our offensive skill players, almost all of our defensive skill players are seniors. So that's scary as a head coach. You're looking to the future all the time. So we need to bring in skilled kids at the receiver, DB, tailback spots to be the guys, in the future. But as far as immediate needs go, we oftentimes don't have a lot of immediate needs. Freshmen play in this program, but it's because they've beaten out some kids that are good players. So we're looking for the best talented kids we can, of high character, good students that want to be the best and play the best, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, Coach, we can't wait to see you guys in the spring, in the summer, and then back out there in the fall in September. Thanks a lot, Coach.